It started in the quietest of ways, not with a fight or a slammed door, but with silence. The kind of silence that creeps into a marriage not all at once, but like a slow leak you don't notice until the floor is soaked. We had been married for over a decade, and in those years we had moved from the passion of late-night talks and spontaneous plans to the routine of bills, laundry, and making sure the kids ate their vegetables. We loved each other, I never doubted that, but somewhere along the way, love became background noise, steady but unacknowledged, like the hum of a refrigerator you only notice when it stops. I realized it most clearly one evening after work. I walked through the door, shoes pinching my tired feet, and she barely looked up from her phone. I said hello. She nodded. I put my bag down, loosened my tie, sat at the table, and asked about her day. She answered in one or two words, polite but distant. Then the silence settled again. I remember thinking how strange it felt, how two people who once couldn't wait to share every detail of their lives now lived together like polite strangers in the same house. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and asked myself the hardest question: was this how it ended, not with betrayal or catastrophe, but with indifference? The thought terrified me. I didn't want a roommate. I wanted my wife back, the woman I used to laugh with over burnt pancakes at midnight, the woman who once left little notes in my jacket pocket just to make me smile at work. But I didn't know where to start. I had tried small things, bringing flowers, suggesting dinner out, offering to help more around the house, but each effort felt clumsy, like tossing pebbles at a wall that wouldn't budge. Then one afternoon, scrolling absent-mindedly online, I stumbled across something odd. It was called a friendship cheat sheet. It wasn't flashy or romantic, nothing like the relationship advice columns full of grand gestures and complicated psychology. It was simple, almost too simple. Just a list of little actions and phrases designed not for lovers, but for friends. The idea was this: treat your partner like your best friend first, your spouse second. The cheat sheet was full of reminders, the kind that seemed almost embarrassingly basic. Ask about something specific they mentioned last week. Say, thank you for ordinary things. Send a message during the day just to say you're thinking of them. Listen without jumping in with advice. Do something they like, even if you don't. The more I read it, the more it struck me that somewhere along the way, I had stopped treating her like a friend. I was her husband, the co-parent, the bill payer, the fix-it man. But I wasn't the friend she used to tell everything to. The next morning I tried it. I remembered she had mentioned her colleague's stressful project, so before leaving for work, I asked her how it was going. She looked at me, actually looked at me, and answered with more than one word. Later that day, I sent her a quick message. Good luck with the meeting. I know you'll handle it like a pro. She replied with a smile emoji. It wasn't much, but it was more than nothing. The cheat sheet became my quiet guide. At dinner, instead of filling silence with news headlines or talking about schedules, I asked her about the book she was reading. When she told me, I listened, not with half an ear, but the way I used to when we were dating, when everything she said felt important. Sometimes I made a point of saying thank you even for something as ordinary as folding the laundry. And on weekends, I suggested watching one of her favorite shows, even though I wouldn't have chosen it myself. It felt awkward at first, like relearning how to ride a bike after years of walking everywhere. But slowly, something began to shift. The silences softened. The laughter started creeping back in, small at first, shared jokes about the kids, teasing about my terrible cooking, but real, not forced. One evening, as we washed dishes together, she said out of nowhere, "You've been different lately. In a good way." That was the moment I realized the cheat sheet wasn't magic. It wasn't about tricks or manipulation. It was about remembering something we had both forgotten, that friendship is the foundation of everything else. Lovers argue, spouses get overwhelmed, parents get tired, but friends? Friends show up. Friends pay attention. Friends remind you that you're not invisible. Months passed, and the distance that once seemed impossible to bridge began to shrink. We still had arguments, still had long days, but underneath it all, the friendship was alive again. We started making time for little adventures, even if it was just a late-night drive for ice cream. She began leaving notes for me again, tucked under my coffee mug. I started telling her more about my own day, not just the surface details, but the feelings underneath. Looking back now, I sometimes think about how close we came to losing it all, not because we stopped loving each other, but because we stopped acting like friends. The friendship cheat sheet didn't save my marriage by itself. What it did was remind me that marriage isn't a one-time vow. It's 1,000 small acts of friendship, renewed every single day. There were times, even after I started following that simple cheat sheet, when the old silence tried to creep back in. Marriage isn't fixed overnight. It's more like nursing a garden back to life after years of neglect. You water, you tend, you pull the weeds, and for a while, nothing seems to change. But then one morning you wake up and see the green shoots pushing through the soil, proof that something is happening beneath the surface. I remember one weekend in particular. We had been invited to a dinner party, and in the car on the way there, I caught her staring out the window, quiet. Old me might have filled the silence with chatter, or let it hang heavy between us. But that little voice from the cheat sheet reminded me, check in, the way you would with a friend. So I asked gently, what's on your mind? She hesitated, then admitted she was dreading the evening, that lately she felt drained by social obligations. It was such a small confession, but it mattered. For the first time in months, she let me in past the polite mask. Instead of brushing it off, I said, we can skip it if you want. Or leave early. I don't care about appearances, I just want you to feel comfortable. The way she smiled then, relieved, grateful, felt like a door opening again. The cheat sheet also taught me patience. I realized how often I had expected instant rewards from my efforts. Buy flowers, get a smile. Plan a date night, get affection. But friendship doesn't operate that way. You don't buy loyalty or closeness with one grand gesture. You earn it slowly, through consistency. And so I kept going, even on days when she seemed distracted, even when the changes were subtle. Over time, those small drops began to fill the empty space between us. But then something inside me shifted. The old me would have sulked, waited for her to make the first move. But the cheat sheet had taught me something important. Friends apologize first. Friends don't keep score. So I turned off the TV, walked into the bedroom, and simply said, I'm sorry. Not for the dishes. For not hearing you. For making you feel alone. She looked at me, eyes tired, but there was something softer in them. She didn't answer right away, but she reached for my hand. That simple gesture, that quiet acceptance, was a turning point. It wasn't forgiveness in an instant, but it was a step, a reminder that beneath all the frustration, we still wanted to find each other again. After that night, the friendship between us grew stronger. We became more intentional about carving out moments together. Sometimes it was small, taking a drive after dinner just to talk, sitting on the porch with coffee in the morning before the kids woke up. Other times it was bigger, planning a weekend getaway, just the two of us, something we hadn't done in years. On that trip, I saw her laugh freely, the way she used to when we were young, and I realized how much I had missed that sound. The cheat sheet also made me rediscover the joy of learning about her. I had assumed, after so many years of marriage, that I already knew everything, her favorite foods, her habits, her quirks. But people change, and somewhere along the way, I had stopped being curious. One evening, I asked her what she was most excited about in her life right now. She blinked at me, surprised, then started talking about a new project at work, about a dream she had of starting her own little side business. I listened, really listened, and as she spoke, I felt something awaken in me. I wasn't just her husband. I was her cheerleader again, her confidant, her best friend. Slowly, the marriage that once felt like it was fading into shadows came back to life with color and warmth. We still argued sometimes, still had bad days, but the difference was we knew how to come back to each other. We knew that beneath it all, we were friends who refused to give up. And here's the truth I carry now. Love on its own isn't enough. Love can exist in silence, in distance, in going through the motions. But friendship, that daily choice to show up, to notice, to laugh, to forgive, friendship is what breathes life back into love when it's gasping for air. The friendship cheat sheet didn't just save my marriage. It saved me. It reminded me of the man I wanted to be, the partner I promised to be, the the friend I used to be. And because of that, I didn't just get my wife back. I got my best friend back.